Hi guys, and welcome back to Donica and Shelby Reads. I'm Donica.
I'm Shelby.
And it is a blustery day in the 100 Acre Woods today, so that's why our location changed. We're trying to catch the light wherever it may be.
So today we're going to wrap up. It's our final video. It's the second half of The Silent Patient. When the book ended, I was totally blown away. There was maybe like this much of the book left, and we still had like no clue what was going on. I finished the book before Donica did. Couldn't have any sort of emotion in my voice because I didn't want her to even let on if I was happy or sad about the ending.
From our last video, you could see I had pegged every single person but Theo. Like, I thought of every scenario. I even thought maybe Gabriel was still alive, and that kind of thought came from another book I read. I won't say the book, but it was by Karen Slaughter, and that's where that idea came from, because I have read so many thrillers where I'm like, don't know what's happening, and then it's been false diary, false death. So that's why I thought, well, is Gabriel still, could Gabriel still be alive? This book left me feeling like everything wrapped up
this was
quickly,
perfect.
But in a good way.
I called you on the phone because the day I read the book, we were going to go to the grocery store or something. I wanted to tell you so bad that I was satisfied with the ending, but I didn't want you to think it meant that there was like a happy ending.
Like, if you had told me that, I would have thought Theo and Alicia got married. And Ruth was the what is the name of the person that
the officiator?
I believe I gave it 4.5, maybe 5 stars, rounded up to 5 star. I gave it 5 stars. I did see some people commenting that the book was kind of boring at the beginning, and I guess maybe like they wanted more action or to be a little bit more thrilling. And to me, I think it was a lot about the author deceiving you and kind of you having to learn about different characters, and how it's like every time you met a new character, it was, oh, they did it. You meet Jean Philippe, still don't know, Jean Felix, and you're like, oh, that was who I pegged.
I never thought it was Jean Felix.
Really?
I never thought it was him. I actually trusted him up until he started. It was obvious that Alicia was like very annoyed with him. Even after that, I still kind of trusted him for some reason.
I think I was all in my own head about that damn Alcestis story. But I guess now that was our brief overall thoughts. What did you give it as 5 stars?
I would give it a solid 4.25.
We're gonna just kind of try to be a little more structured in this book talk. We have decided that for every book, we're just gonna make one video. It's a lot easier for us, and I think for y'all. But I didn't know if it was gonna be easy for us to read a book and get the book talk up like ASAP. So I wanted to give us time, but I realized that we do have plenty of time. Like, we are so eager to read these books that we make time. So in this video, we're going to kind of go chapter by chapter, maybe not quite chapter by chapter, but at least through the book, how it goes chronologically.
Yeah. Chronologically through some of we'll hit the big moments of the book.
We're going to start at chapter 23. I think one of the only, besides Ruth, stable characters, which was Diomedes. The relationship he had with Theo was kind of, it would be interesting to figure out what the author wanted us to get from that, because he really liked Theo and he trusted him. So Diomedes was one of the only normal characters in this book, like Ruth, that you could like, and there wasn't anything deceptive hiding behind him, really.
Yeah, he was very on edge about the Grove and the future of the Grove.
Yeah.
And I think Alicia added even more pressure to that for him, because she was unstable and they didn't really know what to do with her, I feel like, other than medicate her. And Diomedes was obviously an amazing therapist, but even he couldn't get through to Alicia. So not only was the Grove on the line, he just couldn't get through to Alicia, and I feel like that was just something that he didn't know what to do with. And then Theo shows up and all of a sudden he's having breakthroughs. So Diomedes is probably like, this guy's
what we
my
needed.
little apprentice.
Yeah. And he did say, right, at some point he said
it was
he
like,
would pass it to Theo, or was that
it was like 3 seconds within knowing Theo.
Oh, and he's like,
no, it was he had like made his first judgments about Theo, and he was like, who knows, maybe you'll be running this place someday.
So in this chapter, we do get a look at how he interprets, Diomedes interprets Alcestis, because Theo kind of is like, don't you see this is important? Like, this has to play a part, this painting that she drew. And Diomedes is like chuckling, playing his harp or whatever he does. He questions to Theo, why doesn't Alcestis speak at the end? And, what do you think about it? And I think Theo says, she's overcome with emotion. And so he's like, okay, but what kind? And Theo says joy, which I don't know what to take from that.
I guess he means because she was brought back to life. Wouldn't she be happy that she's back alive? And
which, do you think that has something to do, could that have something to do with, like, well, don't you think she's happy that I saved her?
Yeah.
If you think about it now,
yeah.
Isn't she happy she learned that Gabriel was cheating?
Isn't she happy that I didn't shoot her in the head?
Yeah, and then he's like, joy? Theo, think, how would you feel? The person you love most in the world has condemned you to die. That's quite a betrayal. And so Theo's like, because he thinks about Kathy.
Oh, and this is like the first time that I think Theo is like given the concept that Alicia was killed spiritually or like psychologically. And Theo was like, you mean something happened to kill her spirit? To kill her sense of like being alive? And Diomedes was like, possibly. And then Theo was like, I felt dissatisfied.
He is very, would it be narcissistic? The more you look back on this, you're like, Theo is just thinking he saved her. He's thinking he was the white knight that came in and opened her eyes to something.
Yeah.
And he's just, anytime anyone's like, she went through something traumatic, he's like, hold up. What do you mean? It's like, really?
He's like, he's like still searching.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a second, but you'll figure out, like, we figure out later, like, what he's searching for. It's not that Alicia gets better, it's that it's for his own, like, atonement. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
In chapter 25, this is when Theo gives Alicia the supply, or tells her that he thinks it would be a good idea if she painted, and she smiles. Why? Why is she smiling?
I don't know, because at some points I'm like, at this point, I personally believe she has a hunch that it was Theo, right? Does she, or does she not have a clear view that it's him? We disagree on when she found out. So I think by this point, she's like, it was you. Or she has the very strong hunch it was him that was stalking her.
I'm still very, like,
unsure.
Even after I read the end through again, and I know it seems like there was a point, like, when she jumped on him, it was like, oh, I figured out it was him. But then she just second guesses herself and doubts, and then I can't find any clues.
She could just be simply smiling because she wants to paint.
Christian tells Theo, borderlines are seductive, so be careful. And Theo leaves the conversation thinking, is she seducing me? Like, is that what's going on? Am I not knowing my boundaries? But how can he possibly think that? Like,
yeah.
That she's seducing him. He knows exactly what he did to her.
Well, honestly, and I've seen also other comments that I think you have to give the author some leeway, because there are a lot of, like, not really plot holes, but weird things that just wouldn't happen. And one main thing is when she is being one thing that was annoying to me as I was reading it, and I'm giving him a lot of leeway, like, this is your book, you can do it how you do it, and I'll just read it and enjoy it, is when she thinks the stalker has entered her house and she's writing in her diary about it. She's like, he's here. It's just a lot of things in the diary that I was like, okay, no one would write in a diary this way. And two, if someone's breaking into your house, are you going to vlog about it? Or like, hey guys, well, some YouTubers would vlog about it. Clickbait, next video. But I think you have to give him some leeway sometimes, because I just don't think, rereading it and you think, how is he thinking this? It's because the author's just trying to fool us, I believe, When you get the big twist about Theo, being the stalker, and then that's when you put together that things are happening in the past, not at the same time as him with Alicia, which how could Theo have had time to do everything? He had a full-time job. He was stalking Alicia, stalking his wife. I mean, it does, I think if you look deeper into it, you're like, oh yeah. Well, one thing I saw is that the weather, and in Alicia's diary, she talks about it being summer and it's hot and she has the fan, which I think was a clue, because then when he's following Kathy and she's having sex there in the park, you kind of think, oh, would she be having sex in a snowy park, because it was really cold? And then this is where he's like, Kathy says he's going to meet her friend Nicole, and this is one of the first time I think he follows her, and she does just meet Nicole. He was disappointed he didn't catch her in the act. Like, he's disappointed when he can't get into her emails and find incriminating evidence. And so I just put, communication is so much easier than stalking. Like, it would be so much easier to just face her head on, but he is a weak man at the end of the day. Like, he doesn't have the balls to face her.
Before the twist, I was so angry for Theo that, like, he could have done anything and I would have been like, he's justified in that because of everything he's been through. When he almost hits, we're not to this part yet, but when he almost hits, well, who we now know as Gabriel, in the back of the head with a rock, I was almost like, throw that rock, you better
get what you get.
You get what you get, go throw a fit. So I just think it's crazy how, like, I was so empathetic for him, and I was like, almost anything he did was justified. And then, I mean, what he ended up doing in the end was like way beyond anything I would have ever thought.
In thrillers, I've read enough that I'm suspicious of everyone, and I hate everyone until they prove me, different. So I didn't love Theo, but I was like, well, he had every reason, coming from a broken past. I'm like, you have every reason to be dysfunctional.
One of the biggest things that I'm still chewing on is the painting that Alicia painted when Theo gave her the art supplies. It's the grove is on fire and her and Theo are on the fire escape and Theo's carrying her, and Theo says, I couldn't tell if I was saving her from the fire or about to throw her in. And what's confusing to me is kind of what we touched on. When did she find out it was Theo? And if she knew at this point, then why did she draw this? Paint this? So if any of y'all have answers, or if any of y'all have seen anything on the internet, I'm just so confused about it. I'm so confused. So.
And then we meet Barbie, who, she was a pretty interesting character. It's sad to think that she was one of the best characters in the book, because she was a mess.
She was like the light of the book, only one who believed Alicia. One of the things she said was like, I take it Gabriel wasn't a very empathetic man. Like, she was totally on Alicia's side.
She was a very, like, eccentric, a little too much going on, but she was a good, at the end of the day, she was like, believe it. She believed her. Her.
She's the friend you want on a bad day.
So, how funny is it that she actually shows Theo a picture of himself on the camera? It's a blob and you can't tell, but it was him.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if he was like, I have to see this picture because I have to see if it shows me, and it doesn't.
And something he says is like, it could be a dog, it could be a blob. He was like, it doesn't look like anything.
It was both. Him, a dog. Burn. Elif, we have our encounter with Elif. Yeah, then at this point we do see that Elif was attacked, and what she had said was, she had triggered Alicia by saying, Theo loves you. He loves you. He loves you. Theo and Alicia sit in a tree, Kissing. And then that's when Alicia was goaded into a frenzy and attacked her. And like I said, I believe it's because she knew Theo was the reason for all of this. And Elif was just like, she's an effing nutter. She's a psycho. Theo says, I couldn't help but wonder if she was right. Oh, screw you, Theo.
After the incident of Alicia sticking a paintbrush into Elif's eye, they're like, we're pushing her too hard. Yeah, they decide to take away the therapy. Theo's no longer going to be on Alicia's case. They take him off. And in the very next chapter, Alicia gives Theo her diary. So this can't be something we give the author leeway for. Why does she give him the diary? I think in her very back of her mind, I think she shoved it back there that he was the one, because he was trying his hardest for her. He gave her those paints. That's why I truly think when she drew that picture, I think that
she didn't know.
She still was holding out on him.
But now knowing what we do know, did she want to be saved? Or is her vision of being saved that they find, no, because she did kill him. So what is she, if she doesn't know if he's trying to help her or hurt her, how would he help her? By getting to the bottom of who actually triggered her? Or
I think the only thing that could be redeeming for her is that all of the terrible people in her life got found out. That someone else on this planet knew that Max was harassing her, because she could never tell anybody. That someone else on this planet knew she was being followed and she wasn't crazy. I think the only redemptive thing about Theo would be that there was someone else on this planet who knew the truth.
I love the style of this book. Oh my gosh. I get so bored so easily. I know it's horrible. Not even bored. I just get distracted or I have to put the book down. But this book, every chapter was less than 5 pages. And I loved it because it kept you moving. And not to mention, it was broken up into 5 parts. So you knew, bam, you're jumping into something. So at the end of this, part 2 is when she gives him the book. Now we're jumping into part 3. And at the beginning of each part, I think at the beginning there's quotes.
There's
So I love, she gives him the diary. And then at the start of part 3, we get this one of 2 quotes, but this one, I mustn't put strangeness where there's nothing. I think that is the danger of keeping a diary. You exaggerate everything. You are on the lookout, and you continually stretch the truth. By Jean-Paul Sartre. So part 3 is only Alicia's diary.
Yeah, part
right?
3 is the month leading up to someone's in her house.
Yes.
The day.
So this is where she talks about the stalker. This whole part is her talking about the stalker finally. Which, this is where it got really exciting to me. So she just talks about the stranger, and it's so creepy because at this point you don't know if she's lying in her diary as an alibi to her insanity, or if this is happening in her head only or outside of her head. So at this point there's 3 possibilities. She's lying, she is crazy and she's hallucinating, or this is happening and no one believes her. And that was the scariest one to me, that I just was like, no, I don't think it's really happening. I thought at this point she was crazy. And woo, this was a doozy. I probably flew through this part.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's getting so bad that by the end of the diary she's not leaving her house because she's so scared.
I didn't ever really love Gabriel because I didn't trust him really with his late nights at his work or whatever. But this is where I began to think, you know what? He's kind of a piece of crap husband, because she's telling him, she's calling out to him, and he's like, I'm going to go make you see a psychiatrist because I think you're going crazy. And so she's like, fine, I love you so much. I'll be crazy. I'll pretend I'm crazy. So meanwhile, she's being stalked, which in the end, Gabriel ends up paying the price for not believing her as well because,
Yeah. At one point, she wakes up at like 4 a.m. and Theo is outside the window watching her. So she wakes up Gabriel and he gets so mad he sleeps in another room. And she has to stay up all night until she sees daybreak because she's so scared.
And he sees her in the morning. He's just like, really? And then we do also learn that Christian West knew Alicia, and he was friends with Gabriel, and Gabriel called in a favor, and Alicia was seeing Christian West. So then that's another one. You're like, oh, was it Christian? Does he want her to stay drugged because he doesn't want her to speak about him knowing her? I had made a comment after giving Alex Michaelides all the leeway in the world, and she's saying, I just heard something, a noise outside. I checked the window. I saw something moving in the shadows. It's a man. He's outside. And then at the end, she goes on, he's like, he's inside. He's inside the house. And I'm like, LOL, why are you writing in your diary as someone's coming to kill you? Sometimes when I think authors kind of do something like this, it does take you out of the intensity a little bit. Because I'm like, wait, why are you calling 911? Or, So then after that, we jump into part 4. At the end of part 3, we go back to Theo's perspective, and he's closing the diary, and he's all pensive about it. And then, mind you, we don't know yet that he just basically read the terror he was putting on poor Alicia. So this is when he confronts Christian. Christian was like, I thought very sincere, and I believed his story. It was very sincere. He was just like, it was a favor, but then Theo's like, well, I'm basically going to blackmail you. Like, I have you where I want you because you were doing this under the table. So he was taking all money from not just Gabriel, but probably other people, and they were just paying him cash. So that's kind of where the blackmail came in, because he's like, please don't tell, I wasn't supposed to be doing this. He would definitely lose his license for this, if anything.
As Theo is getting all of these people under his thumb, it makes him just feel better because it's just more and more adding up that it's not his fault. It's everyone else. So when he figures out that Christian was doing this, it wasn't like he was in defense of Alicia. It's like, oh, you're more at fault here than I am.
And then this is also, Theo is, if not anything, he's kind of smart, I guess. And he saves this in his little mental, he saves this piece of tidbit because basically later on he uses Christian as his scapegoat, and Christian just set himself up like that. I mean,
he's slowly telling people that Alicia has written about them. So he told Christian, and now he's telling Jean Felix, you were in Alicia's diary, and I know. He's kind of riling everybody up.
Yeah. So then after Jean Felix, he goes to Paul, who had been given some money from Alicia because Paul was in gambling debt. So he tells Paul, hey, I have her diary. He's like, oh, her diary. I guess because it was just him being embarrassed that he had to take money from her. Then he calls Max, and Alicia writes about you in some detail, Max. She said you had romantic feelings for her. And then Max hung up, and he's like, good. Like, I've got him angry. Let's see what happens next.
Maybe him telling all of these people that she wrote about them is just another way that he can be sure that they won't say anything if anything happens.
Yes, a little bit of blackmail.
Yeah.
So then he goes to talk to Paul, and then here you're getting into the big moment.
Yeah, this is Theo's moment he's been waiting for the entire book.
Mm-hmm, which we didn't know. I mean, we were waiting for it, but he was really waiting for it because him trying to help Alicia was really him trying to figure out what triggered Alicia. What made her kill someone when that was not... When I listen to all my murder podcasts, I think that comes up is a lot of people have trauma in their life. Everyone has something, but not everyone becomes a murderer. So he's looking for what, I guess he would say Alicia is seemingly normal. She's a painter. I don't think he ever would have assumed that she would murder her husband. So he's like, what did it? It's like more of a curiosity to him than him trying to help Alicia.
So they were on the roof. And Paul was like, oh yeah, after Alicia's mom died.
So you can see it, the scene of the crime, as they're on the roof. And Theo's like, the crime? What crime? He goes, Vernon's crime. That's when he killed Alicia. My girl, he kept saying, my poor girl, my Eva. Why did she have to die? Why did it have to be her? Why didn't Alicia die instead?
After that entire monologue, Theo says, a chorus of bells started ringing in my head, clanging, chiming, reverberating. This was what I had been looking for. I had found it, the missing piece of the jigsaw at last. And I think it was like he, in that moment, any blood on his hands was gone.
So this is where we get what the author is, the whole point of Alcestis was, because at the very next page, this is what Theo's thinking. Just as Diomedes had physically condemned Alcestis to die, so had Vernon Rose psychically condemned his daughter to death. So there we go. That's the whole... Because the whole book, I was like, what's going on with the mom, the murder-suicide? You never really know. I guess the mom just had some sort of psychotic break or mental illness, and she tried to kill herself and her daughter. And that's all there was to that, other than the fact that after it had happened, the dad said it should have been Alicia. So that was the whole point of that, which I think that was, there's nothing else for us to really dive into, or right? I mean, it wrapped up that nicely. I guess it just shows that mental illness might run in her family.
I think that she had been murderously angry at Gabriel. Alicia keeps saying, but let's not talk about that. Like, she keeps breaking off on something, and you were thinking maybe she knows he was cheating. But I went back and read it, and it was like every time she was so extremely mad at Gabriel because he wasn't listening to her, or he was dismissing her, or she felt like he didn't love her, she would say things like, oh, and then I got so angry, I think about Gabriel, and I would almost think, and then she's like, I'm not going to talk about that. And I think that she was murderously angry at him. Like, I think she was scared of herself that she would do something, and then, she ended up killing him.
So, at this point, Theo comes to Alicia and tells her, I have talked to everyone in your life. I figured it out. I figured out what happened and what made you snap. And he tells her about going to see Paul and what her father did. And at this point, Alicia decides to begin talking. So, in my opinion, at this point, she's like, okay, either she knows it's Theo or doesn't, but she's like, well, if it is Theo, here's where I'm going to start spinning this tale that's not true, and Theo will know it's not true, and Theo will know I know it's him because I'm not telling him the truth, and why would I lie unless I knew? So here she begins to talk.
But up until a certain point, she actually is telling the truth. But then all of a sudden she starts... I think it's when he tied her up with wire. I think that's when she started lying.
Some people, when I say some people, I look at comments on Goodreads, like reviews or questions or something. Some were like, when she said Gabriel's gun had been in the cupboard, I reached in the cupboard, my hand was shaking, I opened it, and the cupboard was empty. The gun was gone, and then I heard him say, The glasses are in the cupboard to your right. So I think people were saying, well, how did Theo know that the gun was in the cupboard? Well, one, she could have been lying, you know? She could have been lying about that whole thing, or Theo was stalking her and seeing her put the gun there. I don't know. But I don't think that's like a big issue of what she's saying, that the gun was not in the cupboard. I think either she's lying about it, or maybe the gun was in the cupboard, or I don't know.
Yeah,
somehow Theo got a gun. Somehow Theo got that gun. I'm assuming it's her gun.
There's something so ironic, and it's earlier in the book. Alicia and Gabriel are fighting about that gun because she wants Gabriel to get rid of it, and Gabriel's like, I have to keep it unless there's an intruder. And she goes, well, what are you gonna do? How about you call the police? You don't shoot him.
So, but this, when she was done telling the story, they went back to the therapy room. And it said, when I turned around, Alicia had already sat down, but not in her chair. She was sitting in my chair. Normally, I would have explored the meaning of this telling gesture with her. Now, however, I said nothing. So that's kind of interesting. Like, she's probably like, yeah, the ball's in my court now. Mm-hmm. You know, like, here I am the...
She's laid everything on the table.
Yeah.
Everything is out in the open.
Now, how are you going to react?
Yeah, she doesn't even know what's going to happen next, but she's already lost everything in her life.
She does not care. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's one thing. Flash forward, because we're in a new chapter, so now it's where he's stalking Kathy. And he says, this is kind of weird. I don't know. What do you think about this? Because I'm confused. Like, I'm confused with everything in this book. So he's following her, and he says, I tried to get a better look at him this time, but I still didn't see his face properly. Though something about his build was familiar. I had the feeling I'd seen him before somewhere. Is this because Kathy goes for men that look like him? Was he seeing himself in him? I'm not sure. Or where would they have seen each other?
Yeah, because he wouldn't put that line for nothing.
Yeah, but that's nothing I could fix. But at this point, he's following the man. I'm sorry to this man.
But he stops when he sees Gabriel go into the house, and he sees that Gabriel has a wife. And all of a sudden, that's when, like, Theo is like, someone else is being betrayed as well. It's not just me, and now it's his weird little goal to, like, let her know.
He's so weird.
He said, I wasn't a murderer. I couldn't kill him. I'd have to think of something cleverer than that.
When he gets into work the next day after this big fib that Alicia told him about what had happened that night, which Theo knew was a lie, he gets into work and Yuri's like, I have something horrible to tell you. There's been an accident. Alicia, she took an overdose. And Theo's like, oh my gosh, how is she? What's going on? Well, Alicia's in a coma. You know, we don't know if she's going to make it or not. So Theo, the white knight of the book, comes and sits down by her. And he, over everyone, seems to notice, which I should have known at this point, something really fishy is going on. He sees a pinprick along a vein in Alicia's arm. And it's like a tiny hole left by a hypodermic needle, revealing the truth. Alicia didn't swallow a bottle of pills. She was injected with a massive dose of morphine. This wasn't an overdose. It was attempted murder. I should have known. Because we're almost done with the book. I should have been like, do I give the authors too much leeway sometimes? I feel like that is my curse.
I think you do, because when you go through the editing process, you want to take out anything, like, every single line should mean something. Mm-hmm. Like, every single line should be, like, doing something. And
so even how does he know that?
Even the way he worded it, he said, something had been overlooked, something significant, something no one had noticed, not even Yuri when he found Alicia.
Obviously, Stephanie, who is the overseer of the hospital, she's like, I finally got my wish. I didn't want anybody to be messing with Alicia. Now that this has happened, like, the crap has hit the fan. So they are in a meeting, and Diomedes is like, let's get the diary to the police. Like, let's kind of tell them what's going on. Police come. They're all over the grove. They're asking questions. So he's leaving the hospital. He's all happy with himself that he's put Alicia into a coma. And Max Berenson gets there, and he's freaking out. He's trying not to cry, and he's just like, what's going on? Like, how could this happen? Like, he's trying to attack Theo, and his fiance or wife, Tanya, is like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
Poor Tanya, she needs to leave.
She does, because clearly Max is obsessed with his ex-sister-in-law. So then we jump into another chapter. It's chapter 21, which every new section starts another, the numbers start over on chapter. Theo, mind you, we still don't really know about the time jump. Well, I don't. And you don't either, right?
No.
We still don't understand what's going on.
The transition between the last chapter and this chapter is the following. Max kept on shouting, but I ignored him. Soon his voice faded into silence. I was alone. I kept walking. I walked back to the house where Kathy's lover lived. I stood there for an hour watching.
So you are thinking we're in real time that Theo is doing everything in the same time period. So truly that transition was that smooth from one chapter in present time to what we now know is past. So it is him saying he's stalking her. Over the next few days, I kept returning. So at this point, I feel like 90% of people are like, wait a second, what's happening? I still don't know. We're going into the next page, the end of the chapter. I'm still like, wait a second, something's not right here. So then the very ending of this chapter, 2 paragraphs, it transitions into exactly what Alicia said about the man breaking into her studio while she's painting. And he's the man breaking into the studio. He's putting on his black mask. He's putting on his gloves. I think where it said she ended the call and switched on an electric fan. The fan that Alicia's been talking about in her diary since the very beginning. She stood in front of the fan, her hair blowing in the breeze. She picked up a paintbrush and approached a canvas on an easel. And so then it says the very last 2 sentences. This was the first time I came face to face with Alicia Berenson. The rest, as they say, is history.
That line.
So, yeah, mine was blown. So then we get into part 5, the final part. We have, at this point, I believe, 15 pages left of the book. And then we get into Alicia Berenson's diary. But this is present day. She's writing a diary to be found, which I think is very beautiful. This is her final voice, her final words that she speaks into a page. Her final say of her own life, which she has not had a say in, being in essentially prison in her own body and in the facility for 7 years. This is her final words before Theo puts her into a coma. February 23rd. This is her saying, Theo just left. I'm alone. I'm writing this as fast as I can. I haven't got much time. I've got to get this down while I still have the strength. I thought I was crazy at first. It was easier to think I was crazy than believe it was true, but I'm not crazy. I'm not. So then she talks about the first time she sees him in the therapy room, and she says, I wasn't sure. There was something familiar about him, but different. I recognized his eyes. She says that she also smells the same cigarette smell on him in the smoky aftershave. So then she talks about him injecting her in her, as she's slowly falling into a coma, her scribbling in her own diary. Then she tells the true story of what happened that night. Basically, what Theo did was show her the truth, show her that Gabriel was a piece of crap husband and didn't really love her. And when faced with the choice of dying, or Theo's basically like telling him, you die or Alicia dies. You die or Alicia dies. And Alicia's like begging him, like, I love you, Gabriel. Don't say anything. We're both going to die anyway. I love you. I love you. Say you love me. And Gabriel just says in a tiny voice, so far away, a little boy's voice, I don't want to die. And the only other man that she has trusted and loves with everything she has and would do anything for him, including die, because she's saying, we're both going to die. Just say you love me. Let that be the last thing we hear. And he says, I don't want to die, meaning you can die. Theo steps away.
Alicia and Gabriel were back to back, so Theo shoots the ceiling and leaves.
Shoots the ceiling, so Gabriel thinks Alicia is dead. Shoots the ceiling, unties her, and it's like, now you know.
There were 3 men that really just left Alicia for dead, and it was her dad, and then it was Gabriel, and then lastly it was Theo. He told her, he literally said the words, he was like, now that you know the truth, you're better off dead. Because I don't know how much Alicia was processing in that moment, because she thought she was gonna die, but he did tell her, she did say in front of her that Gabriel was the man that his wife was cheating on him with.
Yeah.
So whether Alicia actually registered that or not, in her fear, he did say in front of her that she was being cheated on, and then also in front of her, Gabriel wouldn't die for her. So
at the very end of that, Alicia just says, "That's the truth. I didn't kill Gabriel. He killed me. All I did was pull the trigger." Alicia hides this diary in a painting that I believe Indira gets.
Well, I thought that the diary was slipped into the back of
the Alcestis?
No, into the back of the Grove on Fire painting, and Jean Felix took it.
Oh, did he get that painting? We'll look into that. But despite whatever, it was slipped into a painting that Theo didn't know about, and it was given to authorities, and the authorities went to Theo's house.
Theo at this point doesn't suspect anything. He doesn't know why the authorities are there, and at this point we see a picture of what his and Kathy's life looks like post
death of Gabriel,
post death of Alicia, and it's very sad. You can tell that she is living a life of suffering at this point, showing signs of potentially depression. Theo even says, he's like, I did all this to keep her and I ended up losing her anyways. They're living in his parents' old house, which is very ironic. He's saying, like, we moved into this house thinking that we would change it up, but we didn't. It's the same old place that he grew up in. So, I mean, really, if you think about it, nothing ever ended up better for him.
So at the end of everything, all of Theo's actions from the start of the book to the end were for his own gain. If he went to court, it would have been breaking and entering and whatever having a hostage entails. But he didn't murder anyone. But then at the very end, even with Alicia being in a coma, he didn't necessarily murder her either. Attempted murder. And I think because we read it in his perspective and how much he liked to gas himself up, we thought he was a good person despite his faults, but he was really just a broken man that not even Grandma Ruth could save. Our dear beloved Grandma Ruth. Alex, if you're watching this, can you answer why Theo recognized Gabriel? That's the real tea. I might have mentioned it. Alex Michaelides has a degree in screenwriting, or that's what he went to college for, something like that. Well, as I was reading this, I was thinking Brad Pitt bought the rights to this book. No, that's not set in stone, but I think it's Brad Pitt. Gosh. My point is, it could be a movie, and we will see it, and we'll vlog it, and we will be there opening nights.
My question for all of you watching who have read the book or haven't, it doesn't matter, and you right now.
Okay.
If this were a movie, who would you cast as all the characters?
Okay.
Or the main characters?
There's nothing in this world I'm worse at.
Oh.
And I can't even ride a bike.
The only person whose looks were reiterated was Alicia. She has red hair. That's the only
I didn't even remember that. So Alicia, Amy Adams with red hair. I don't know. I love her so much. Okay.
You know who should be Alicia?
Emma Stone.
Sarah Paulson. Womp womp.
I was pegging them in their 30s. I would say Emma Stone then. For Gabriel,
I'm picturing Gabriel as like dark hair, green eyes, like Frodo Baggins. Mark Ruffalo.
That's so cute.
And Robert Downey Jr. is Theo.
Like the whole Avengers cast.
And Scarlett Johansson is.
So, thank you guys so much for sticking around. Okay, so y'all, this is going to be our next book. It's called Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane.
And this is my pick.
This is her pick. Silent Patient. We both agreed on the Silent Patient,
yeah.
But that was, I basically gave you a list of, you can only pick from these.
Two families living side by side, both of them going through things, bonding, love, getting over traumas that have happened to them in the past.
A book about healing and forgiveness. I think that's a big...
Yes.
So if y'all are interested in this, pick it up. Okay, guys, thank y'all so much for watching. So next week, we'll have 2 new videos for y'all guys. Thank y'all for sticking around. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Lit fam. Become a Libling or a Lit sis. And until our next video, guys, y'all take care. And we'll see you next time.